good afternoon. It is a wonderful day today at the Amazing Corner. I have the pleasure of welcoming author Charity Reed with us. She is the author of Mr. Smarty Pants, which I would implore everybody to go grab this right now at theamazingcorner.com. It is such a cool book. It is a fun book. It's full of action and adventure. It's full of humor. It's full of a lot of things that'll get you thinking, it gets your imagination going. The characters are inventors, they are business owners, they are handling real life stuff. They deal with different abilities and different challenges, but in a very fun, engaging, action-filled way. So Amazing Corner, help me welcome Charity Reed. Hey, Charity.
Hi, thank
So
you.
Charity, introduce yourself to the viewers, please.
Nice. Okay, as you said, that was a phenomenal introduction. I am Charity Reed and so excited to be here getting interviewed as an author. I am a self-published and traditionally published author. And so my newest release is the Mr. Smarty Pants that just came out in September. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
So we're excited to have Mr. Smarty Pants as part of the Amazing Author Catalog. The second edition will be officially published within a week or so. This is kind of just like our pre-lunch party while we are celebrating and highlighting our different authors because we want you guys to get to know them as authors, as people, and learn more about what's going on inside their pages. So this is my way of doing that. So again, Charity, thanks for joining me.
Of course.
So I want to talk a little bit about your book because I was excited to have Mr. Smarty Pants be a part of the catalog because that's one of the challenges I had with the launch of the first edition. When I would go to our book fairs, they would say, "What books do you have for older kids?" And we did not have many. And in addition to not having a lot of older books, and when I say older, I say like our tweens and teens. So I would say anywhere from 9 through 18. We really didn't have any books for boys. So this book is not exclusively for boys, but I believe that it is one that the boys will be able to say, okay, there's something for me. So I thank you. So tell me about
Absolutely.
your ideal audience for Mr. Smarty Pants.
Ideal audience pretty much 8 and up. So you're, getting into third grade on up. Even adults alike, if you're fans, I'm a fan as well. That's why I wrote it. But yeah, that's pretty much the age range. My son, I was writing it with the anticipation that he'd be able to read it independently by the time it was published, and that happened to pan out. He's fifth grade now, so he loves
Right.
yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So what genre is it in technically, I would say?
STEM, or STEAM, if you want to put that in there as well. Science, technology, engineering, art, and math. It has a lot of plays to also history, Black history, highlighting George Washington Carver, and just celebrating representation in general. But yeah, the genre I would say STEAM.
Perfect, perfect. And it definitely crosses a few genres. Like I said, I see action adventure, I see humor, I see chapter book, I see graphic novel, and it is our one and only graphic novel. So if you've been looking for a graphic novel, we have an amazing one here. You will not be disappointed. So George Washington Carver, let's talk about that a little bit. Why was he your chosen inventor to incorporate into your story?
That's a great question. So, really, I was picking my son's brain because, again, like I said, representation is important to me, and not just the, struggle bus trauma, but being able to celebrate our kids' excitement and adventure and everything like that. So I'm like, what would be a problem that would be funny? And as a previous school teacher, I remember, kids that would have allergies, and he couldn't have a certain snack. My son wasn't able to take a certain snack to school because someone had allergies. And I'm like, oh man, I remember what that was like. I'm like, man, peanuts, peanut butter, George Washington Carver. It just kind of all started flowing at once. And I said, you know what? We always like to put him in a box and say, hey, he invented peanut butter or he's known for just this. And I'm like, I bet he's known for way more than just
Right.
peanuts, things with peanuts. And it comes to find out he actually was. And so I did a lot of research on him. And then that played into my character, who's one of his descendants and happens to have severely allergic uh, allergies to peanuts. So
And I
that's where
love that. And it's funny. So when you applied, I can't remember if I slid in your DMs or you found out about me on social media. All right, segue. How did you find out about the Maze Recorder? I can't remember.
so I've known about you for a while. I watched, but I didn't know you were doing another intake.
Okay.
And I had just released, I think, a reel or something for the graphic novel, and you were like, "This would be a great fit." And I'm like, "Yeah," because
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
just found about
Yeah, I'm
you.
out here
Yeah.
working, y'all. Closed mouth don't get fed. I thought
Uh-huh.
to fill a gap, and I'm being intentional. So thank you for saying yes.
Yes.
Can't remember. Some people just find me organically, and some people I'm like, I want this book. I'm going after that.
Uh-huh.
But in saying that, I didn't realize that food allergies was a part of it, of course, because I didn't see the pages. But I'm excited because I feel like that's a God wink because that's one of the things I had on my list. There was another author who talked about food allergies specifically, and I was going after her and wasn't able to connect with her. So I'm glad to just check some of those boxes because I want the amazing catalog excuse me, when everyone looks through it, I want them to find something that they can connect with.
Yeah.
See themselves and support their family's needs and like you said, find representation. Because a lot of times when we think about representation, we think about Black or Hispanic or Asian, but representation can mean special abilities, could mean
Mhm.
different challenges, like who understands my experience and who can make it light and make me feel supported and seen. So a big thumbs up to that.
Thank you.
So why graphic novel?
That's a great, concept as well. So I pride myself on being able to get involved in a lot of personal and professional development. And when I originally wrote the manuscript, I got it in a critique group, and one of the instructors of the course picked my manuscript to study in the class that day.
Oh,
And they're reading it, they're like, "This is great, this is funny," and they felt like they're like, "I wonder, have you ever thought about maybe it could be a graphic novel?" And I was like, "Oh, I have not." And so, like later that week, I went and I played with it, and I converted the whole thing into a graphic novel format. And then I was just addicted at that point. I'm like, "Okay, this is great."
no, she
um,
definitely killed it. I want to look. I got this darn filter on, and it's not
at the
showing.
background, it's okay.
Look, maybe I need to get rid of it because I really want to share some of the pages. Let's see. Am I that fast? There we go. Get rid of that. It's not helping us. All right, let's see. There we go.
There we go.
I love it. I love the different variations of the characters' looks and hair. I love that for the reluctant readers or people who
Yes,
say kids does not read, it's not super wordy. There's not any intimidation of just, a whole page full of text, but there's images. So I think you definitely nailed it. Um,
yes.
how did you find your illustrator and how was it working with the illustrator?
So, because this manuscript was actually sold and picked up,
Oh, wow.
they provided the illustrator for me. And so, initially, that's one of the differences with a graphic novel manuscript versus just a regular manuscript is that some manuscripts you can put art notes, but with a graphic novel, like you're detailed. This is a panel. This is happening here. This is what the character looks like. Like I'm putting it all in there.
Mhm.
So they took it and they looked at all the detail and everything I put in and mocked up the characters, and they look just like I envisioned. I'm like, this is
Nice.
bananas. So I
That
really,
goes to speak to your writing. That's cool.
yeah, yeah. And so I was like, oh, they killed it. They brought them to life exactly how I wanted them. And so it was very seamless. It was a very seamless process, talking back and forth. Our publisher speaking between us back and forth. It went really smoothly. So it was a great experience.
So let's talk about that. So part of these interviews, like I said, is to get to know the authors, let you guys know more about the books, but also to help either aspiring writers or current self-published authors learn about different opportunities and techniques. Talk a little bit about being able to sell your manuscript, because I think
Absolutely,
published
absolutely.
authors are doing everything on their own.
Right. Yes. And I came from that world. My first book that was indie published completely through me. I did the Kickstarter, the crowdfunding, all of that, Illustrator, all of that jazz. But I've always known I've wanted to trail both paths. Number one, because I love the creative freedoms and being able to do exactly what you want, when you want, how you want with the indie route, but also the traditional route. They have a lot more distribution and a lot more hands off for me. So it's like, okay, here you go. You can go do this while I'm over here doing the indie thing. And so for me, being able to vet and look at opportunities for your work is really important. And for Mr. Smarty Pants, an indie publisher was doing a call for submissions, and they were like, "We're really wanting graphic novels." And I'm like, I just wrote a graphic novel. Let me
Yeah.
just see. So I sent it to them, and they were like, "This is great." And because they're an indie publisher, which the founder of the publishing company, she actually started as an indie author, which was
Nice.
phenomenal. She made that segue
You
into indie
understand.
publishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she is still a small press. And for me, what really sealed the deal was distribution, because you have a lot of people out there who are quote unquote indie publishers and like, hey, we're going to do great with your book, blah, blah, blah. But I want to know who your distributor is, because that's going to tell me whether or not I could just run with this myself still, or I'm going to turn it over to you guys and trust that we're going to do what we're envisioning for it. And
Yeah.
so the distributor for this is Learner, and they deal with Crayola and not Scholastic, Crayola and Sesame Street, things like that. So I knew
Nice.
that they would have a wide reach. I knew that it was the education market, and my book falls into that: peanut allergies, STEM, STEAM, Black history. So it was a really good fit for me, which is why I took advantage of the opportunity. Like I'm saying, you want to vet and make sure that it is a good fit. Don't just go throwing out anything and go, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to take this, because it needs to make sense. And so for me, it just made a lot of sense. And 2 years later, that is the downside. Here we are with the actual physical book, because traditional does take a lot longer. But yeah, that's how we got here.
Okay. So one of the cons is the length of time it takes, right? But then the pros are there's more distribution opportunities. You take some things off your plate. So that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. And I'm glad you said that when you talked about the Sesame Street, I thought about one of the things I thought of when I was reading a book. I'm like, I definitely see cartoon. I definitely see TV series. So
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what happens next. What do you see in the future for Mr. Smarty Pants?
me too. Well, I definitely see a sequel. I've had a ton of people already ask. They're like, all right, on the cliffhanger. I'm like, hey, you got to keep people
Mhm.
engaged and excited. So definitely a sequel. I would love maybe an in between before an animated show or anything like that. Maybe a audio podcast where you could have the
Oh,
cast of
that's cool.
characters listening to a show for this age group. I think would be fun. We've kind of gotten away from that. Take time to sit around and listen to a story instead of get our mind sidetracked, or visually practice your listening comprehension skills. So I think that would be a really cool
I
segue
think
next.
that's good. I wonder
Yeah.
if there's a gap there that Mr. Smarty Pants will fill out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So on the cover, you have the word astronym. After diving into the pages, I learned a little bit about it, but I didn't quite know what that meant. So can you talk to who are other people who may see this for the first time? Tell us about.
Yes, I know I love it's a unique name, but that's actually the name of the illustrator.
I didn't know that at
Yes.
first.
So they put us side by side. So author as me and Astronym as our illustrator. She is phenomenal. She's also on IG. But yeah, she does really great work. And so I think she's done a couple now debut graphic novels, and mine is one of the ones on her list. So
Awesome. I agree. She did a good thing. I thought it meant something. Like I thought
yeah, that's
them something like, and then I'm like,
I
oh,
know.
I think I read from like the dedication page or something. I learned, oh, that's the illustrator. So
Yes, that's
I
her
wanted
name.
to put that out there because I'm like, people might be like me. I'm like, what does this even
What
mean?
is that?
I was
Yeah,
Googling it.
that's her pen name. I love it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
cool. So it's creative too. So shout out to Astronym. I'm looking
Yes,
learning more about her as an illustrator. All right. So I love that you changed Mr. Smarty Pants, which is can be seen as a negative connotation. Most kids or people don't want to be called that kind of name. I remember as a child, even as recent as Saturday, being called a nerd. I've always been called a nerd for being intelligent, for being smart, for making good decisions. And of course, when you're young, you don't want those kind of names. You feel uncomfortable. So I love that you took the time to, in multiple opportunities, to highlight how that's really pretty cool. Can you talk a little bit about that?
absolutely. So again, yes, from my own personal experience, same as you, as well as my son being called, smart Alec or smarty. And I'm like, we're going to change the narrative, see what we can do with that, because it is not, uh, we need to make it popular again. The fact that
To be
education and
intelligent.
intelligence is,
Like,
yes, it's a good thing. Yes. Thinking for yourself, being innovative,
yeah,
being able to be a problem solver,
yeah.
um, couples all under that category for me with Smarty Pants. And I don't want people to be discouraged from using their intelligence. And so that was a nod to highlight that characteristic, and to further encourage my son, like, hey, it's good to be
And I
a
feel
smarty
like
pants.
for Black boys, important, specifically in Black young men, they shy away from highlighting their intelligence and being
Yeah.
confident about being smart. And I tell my nephews, because my son and my nephews are all intelligent, they're all honor roll students, and
Love that.
we celebrate that big. We go out to eat, we party, we are in a group text, and one of the things I tell them,
Yeah.
don't ever let anybody take that away from you.
Yeah.
'Cause there are so many young Black men who are intelligent who have chosen the cool or the trendy lifestyle because that's where they feel more accepted. But there's people out there for you.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yes.
Cool. All right. So Ben is one of the main character in the book, and he creates a lot. He has great problem solving abilities. His problem solving abilities are also exciting, they're fun, and they're admirable. Because I'm like, Ben is killing the game out here. Like when he when he has a challenge, he has that I can fix that can do spirit. So that I think that's why it spoke to me so much because me, be amazing means being the best version of yourself and overcoming
Absolutely.
challenges or barriers. So it spoke to the little kid in me. So I love that he introduces us to new terms that I feel like you don't talk about. You talk about hives, you talk about allergies, you talk about food allergies. And I just remember, like you said, when my son was in elementary school, there was a table for the kids
Yeah.
with allergies, and it could be isolating and you could get
Yeah.
teased. Was that intentional?
It was. Yeah, that was intentional. Again, highlighting and bringing awareness to that because um again, my son, it was actually a spin on that because he was complaining that he couldn't have a certain snack because somebody was allergic. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you think that person feels knowing
Yes.
y'all can't have that because of them? Like, well, oh, that's not okay. They don't want that allergy either.
Right.
And so,
Right.
and then again, being in the cafeteria and having to separate all for safety reasons, like it's just a nice way to further bring that awareness with the humor, but also in a serious way. So I will say one again with the traditional versus the indie. Originally, one of the inventions that he did was a modernized EpiPen.
Oh,
But after the beta readers and everything went through it, apparently I couldn't use Epi in the for
name.
that, and
Okay.
so I was like,
That was a
oh,
good catch, right? As a
it
self-published.
was. I didn't realize because I'm like, oh, this is great. People learn how to use it. Like I had the tool, push the buttons. There was like a little jingle so that people would know how
Mhm.
to use the tool because it's really important if someone is going through that
Absolutely.
anaphylactic, shock. But they were like, no, we can't use it.
Yeah, but can you use allergy pen? Because I feel like that could be a good
That's what
marketing
I,
tool or a giveaway. We give away things at our events and stuff, but you can still teach them.
right. I was getting pushback, so I don't know.
Investigate that. I love that. I love
I
that idea.
will, but yeah, that was
But
intentional
we
for
don't want
sure.
any copyright infringement, and we don't want any.
Correct.
So thank you to the indie publisher for that. All right.
Yes.
So let's get a little light and loose as we end the end of our interview. Uh,
Okay.
what's the one invention from your story that you totally love to see in real life?
Ooh, that's a good question. Ooh, okay. If I could put a spin on it, probably the lock that he makes. So he makes this lock to secure the his inventions and like factory book. And if you touch it and it identifies you as not the owner, then it asks you a series of questions. And if you don't
Oh,
get them right, it's going to be an alarm, sound off, and all that. So I would definitely use that lock on stuff in my house
I love
and
that.
put my own questions that people wouldn't know the answer. Like, I
I
would
love
probably
that.
use
That's
that.
pretty cool. All right. And did you ever dream of being an inventor as a kid?
I did. Yes. I even as an adult, there are a bunch of things I'm like, somebody should invent this. Like I'm always
And
my
don't
brain's
think too
always
much
going.
about it because then it's gonna be on your timeline. It's
I
gonna be
know.
something in your Google search. I don't know how it
I
happens.
know.
That has happened to me. I see something and I'm like, oh, I would need
Then
a
it pops up.
conversation, and then it's there. So we don't know if it
Yes,
really exists or just AI just doing AI stuff.
exactly. But yes, I
So
love it. I love
can
that.
you think of one of the inventions that you thought of as a kid, or like you said, as an adult?
Um,
And especially if it's already come out, then you ain't got to worry about nobody stealing it.
I know still I'm like, what else did I think? And I'm like, oh, somebody didn't. Oh, so when I bake a lot. I used to have a baking business before all of this. And when I was teaching my kids, yeah, because this came out, I love science. of course. And so we would talk about matter and then states of matter. And then so I love to bring food and like ice cream because ice cream is a solid, then it's a liquid, it melts. But I made ice cream filled cupcakes. I'm like, wow, I've never seen a cupcake with ice cream in it. Lo and behold, a couple years later, I went to the stores and you see the cupcakes in the freezer section with ice cream. I put somebody in it. But I
Yeah.
thought about, I'm like, this will be a great idea. How convenient and not
Yeah.
messy. Like eat my ice cream and my cupcake. It's already out there now.
So
But
anybody who's watching who has an idea or invention, believe me, if God gave it to you, you better go ahead and get done because he will give somebody else to execute and
that
you'll
will do
be
it.
a consumer instead of getting these money. Because I'm like, I wish I made something that was so simple, but it's timeless. So things like the paper clip, the screw,
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
like,
Yes.
I want to make something like that
Yeah. Yeah.
that builds generational wealth and has a
Of
timeless.
course.
So I'm waiting for God to download that for me.
Download it. Like all this we always will need it. Download it.
The screw was like, it's,
Yep.
but anyway. All right. Describe your writing space. Is it kind of organized? Is it chaotic? Do you have things like don't move my post-its? What does your
Ooh.
writing space look like as a creator?
Um, it's actually organized right now, which is not the norm all the time, especially if I'm in the mode of putting things together. I'll have bits and pieces of story because I'm one of those, I'm on the go a lot. Plus, my later adult diagnosed ADHD brain, I'm always like I may dictate part of my story or I may write it down in my notes. And so I'll pull up my iPad and pull up a piece of paper where I wrote an idea and I create it all together and put it into a document. So sometimes I'm looking at all these things at once.
Mhm.
And then once I'm done with that, I can get back to the organized desk. But it's
Wow.
it's a mixture, half and half.
All right. So lastly, I would like you to speak to the young, reluctant readers. Tell them why Mr. Smarty Pants can transform them into the most avid reader you ever think of.
Awesome. Yes. So Mr. Smarty Pants has so much fun and creativity in it. For those who are reluctant to read, you're going to find out new things you didn't know before. You're going to get left on a cliffhanger, and you're also going to see some superhero stuff going on if you're a fan of that as well. And the illustrations are great. The text is not overwhelming. There's jokes in there that are relatable, especially for kids. And so overall, it's just a good, engaging read, of course, with STEAM and science. So if that's something that you like, this will be a great fit for them.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So viewers, go to theamazingcorner.com right now, click on shop, and just type in Mr. Smarty Pants. You can get a copy of Charity's book today. We are so grateful to have you as a part of the catalog, guys, and you can stay tuned to learn more about the catalog also on theamazingcorner.com. Join my mailing list so you don't miss anything new, anything exciting, any offers or updates and author showcases. So anything you'd like to share before we go? Where can they find you on Instagram or
They can
social?
find me on Instagram, yep, by my name, Charity Reed. I'm also on Facebook. Webpage is in the works, but that'll be up soon, and I'll post that on those social media handles. So outside of that, that's where they can find me.
All right. Thankful to have you guys. Have a great day. Be
Bye.
amazing.
Thank you so much.